Hi, in this video I'm going to teach you about composition, coverage, the 3 basic shots, 6 cool shot ideas, and how to shoot and complete sentences to make your vlogs better. Stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome back. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, my name is Castro. I do a podcast about spearfishing called The Spear, and I vlog 5 days a week about things I do in San Diego, fishing, spearfishing, and a lot of other random things, including Teaching Thursdays. Today is Teaching Thursday, so welcome. This is part 2 of our 4-part series on how to vlog. These videos are designed as vlogging tips to help make you a better vlogger. So, if you're a vlogger, this is the video for you. Today we're going to cover composition, coverage, 3 basic shots, 6 cool shot ideas, and how to shoot and complete sentences. The way that I'm setting up this how to vlog series is I wanted you guys to learn all of the basics of gear and lighting and your sound. All that stuff is in place now. If you don't remember that, if you haven't seen that video yet, go check out Castro vlog number 104. That's the first video of this series on how to vlog and how to vlog vlogging tips. And this video is going to focus more on the different shots you can use to make a film, to make a video. Alright, so let's get into it. Let's talk about composition first. So composition. Composition is how you frame things with your camera. So where this or what you are allowing to be shown in your video or picture. Let's think of it as like a painter would, right? When you're a painter, you have a blank canvas and you're adding things to the canvas, and a painter would only add things to the canvas that help tell his story or tell his image or help build on the image, right? That a painter isn't going to add something that's random that doesn't add to his composition or help push his point across, right? So with photography and video, it's kind of like the opposite. Everything's already there, and your frame is one of the ways you use to control what you keep out of it, right? So a painter adds things that are important to his point. A videographer and a photographer removes things that are distracting from the story or not pushing your image forward, right? So that's kind of like the biggest thing with composition. So the most overlooked part of an image when somebody's new at taking video or shooting photos is the background. So when you're shooting, make sure you just check the background, make sure there's nothing distracting in the back. Because imagine if you're sitting here talking to the camera and you're at a cool place and there's like somebody in the background back here doing something funny or just like distracting your audience from the point you're trying to make, right? So that's one of the big ones. So that's kind of part of composition, because you can adjust the angle of your camera or the focal length to make it like to make the background blurry, to take those elements out. Those are kind of some of the things you could do to make your composition stronger, right? Yeah. So this is an example of how to not compose your shot. You want to have your subject here, at least, right? But this background is terrible, so you want to fix the background before you even think about where the subject should be. But yeah, once you fix the background, you want your subject to be in a good position to be able to talk to the camera. You don't want to face out of the frame like this. You always want to face into the frame. You want to give yourself some space here, right? And here, right? See, it's okay for me to have the frame against my shoulder here because I'm not facing that direction. But as soon as I face that direction, it kind of gets really awkward, right? You feel like you're missing out on what's on that side, right? So that's basically just framing. That's composition. That's like if you're going to take somebody's picture, you wouldn't frame them that way, right? You want to put them right there on the third here, or even here at the center. That's fine. You don't want to have a shot where you're like talking like this, or it's like half your head's removed, or like you're out of the frame, or a composition where like you're down here talking to the camera with all this space above your head, or maybe something like this where you're like, it doesn't look right to have your eyes so close to the top, right? So what a lot of people do in photography when they first start out is they rely on what's known as the rule of thirds. And the rule of thirds is basically you take the frame or the box that you can see in your viewfinder, and you divide it with like a tic-tac-toe sign, right? Or like a hashtag. So basically you have two lines coming down and two lines going across, and they're spaced out evenly, so they're dividing the image into thirds. So that's one third, it's another third, and that's another third, right? And then same thing from the bottom. So that's one third, that's another third, and that's the last third, right? And what that ends up giving you is a grid that looks like a tic-tac-toe or like a hashtag on your screen. And the way the rule of third works is you want to put the things that are of interest on those lines. So the top third line or the bottom third line. So if you're going to shoot a horizon, you put the horizon like right there to emphasize the sky. Or if you're going to shoot a landscape and you shoot a horizon, you put the horizon at the top to emphasize the landscape as opposed to the sky, right? So it's like the real basics rule of third stuff. And then if you're going to put a person into a frame, then you want to have their eyes on that third line, or on the points where the lines that go up and down intersect, right? Those are called the golden points, right? So like there, or there. It just depends on what you're shooting. But rule of thirds is kind of an easy way to learn, I guess, but it's not going to serve you well once you start to get into more complicated compositions. The best advice I can give you when it comes to composition is to look up dynamic symmetry. Dynamic symmetry is it's a grid, but it's based off of a lot of research that's gone into looking into all of the master painters, right? So those guys all had these hidden geometric shapes and ways of designing their paintings so that they could be pleasing to the eye. It'll make your photos and videos better than the rule of thirds. And if you want to learn about dynamic symmetry, I recommend a channel. I'll put the link below. I think I forget the guy's name that makes it, but I think his channel is called Canon of Design, or that's his company. And he explains how the rule of symmetry works, along with a bunch of other compositional elements, which are awesome. So if you're into photography, it's mostly for photographers and painters, but it's the same thing, right? A picture frame is the same thing as a video frame, so it's just moving. But so you can use those same principles to make your shots nicer, right? Okay, so sorry, that's kind of took a long time. So that's composition. Another thing to add to this section before we move on is when you're filming, or when you're recording, you want to shoot mostly with your camera stable, right? You don't want to be running around with the camera kind of like bobbing up and down, because think of the camera as your audience, and you guys are my audience, right? So you guys can see it would be distracting to have the camera shaking around, because then the whole frame is shaking, right? When the camera is stationary, the only thing moving on the screen in this case is my mouth and my hands every once in a while when I want to make a point. But if the whole screen is moving, your eye might have difficulty trying to figure out what's happening, what's the important piece that you should be looking at. That is why it's better to have your camera stationary. Even if you do the vlogging setup where you have like the Joby collapsible tripod or whatever, it's a good idea to stop and set up your camera, check the composition, make sure the background is nice, and then have a little bit of that dynamic symmetry involved, and then you can walk into the frame and start talking to the camera, or just simply start recording and talking to the camera, but with your nice shot that's already nice and framed, right? Well, I know some of you are thinking Casey Neistat vlogs on the Joby Gorilla Pod and he hand holds it all the time. He does hand hold it when he's on a skateboard, where you kind of expect some motion. But if you notice, he'll set it down. He'll put it up on like a mailbox or something like that when he has something important. It's important to keep the audience from getting dizzy, right? You don't want to be doing all this stuff where like your hands shaking. Get your camera on a tripod or on a Joby Gorilla Pod on something that's elevated to your eye level, and that'll make your videos a lot smoother, a lot better. Cool, alright, now we're going to move into coverage. Coverage is what you get when you shoot with multiple cameras. So you can do it one of two ways. You can have multiple cameras running at the same time from different angles when you do an action, right, when you do a shot, or you can repeat the shot, like the action, and reposition the camera every time. And that way you'll get coverage, right? So coverage just means that you're shooting a scene from multiple angles. I like to do that to show like me leaving the house, for example, right? You shoot the inside of the house, and you see the door. You see me opening the door and walking out of the door, and then I reposition the camera outside, and I do the shot again, I open the door and walk outside, right? Yeah, both cameras catch me opening the door, but it's from a different angle, and then you can cut the scenes in editing and make it look like it's one continuous scene, and it's actually nicer for the person viewing it. It's a lot of work, but it makes the vlogs look a lot cooler, right? It makes it look better. Another thing with that is when you're editing, you don't want to show necessarily the same thing from a different angle. You want to show the continuation of it. So for example, like the door example, when we open the door, you see me inside the house, you're kind of like you're standing behind me, and you watch me go to the door and open it and then go outside and close it, and then I reposition the camera, and now you're watching me from the outside, you're watching the door open and me come outside and close it. When you edit that, you want to cut the first scene when you see me open the door, you cut that scene there, and then you cut into the scene from the outside where the door opens and you see my head, you see me start to walk out, right? And then you have to play with that a little bit, because a lot of the stuff in between that you cut out is actually what the audience will imagine happening in between, right? So the audience is pretty educated as far as like scene cuts like that, because they watch a lot of movies and TV and stuff. So all those scenes are common in like movies. So people are pretty sophisticated. They'll understand that you walked out of the house and now you're outside, and that their angle changed, their point of view changed, right? So anyway, that's coverage. That's it's cool. And if you do a lot of coverage shots like that, you'll have a lot of options later on in editing to make it look cool. So that's coverage. Now we're moving on to the types of shots. So the types of shots, we have a wide shot, which is basically a shot that would show the audience where you're at, kind of set the scene, kind of set the mood. Is it nighttime? Is it daytime? Are you at the park? Are you at the gym? All right, and then we have the medium shot. But a medium shot will be something like this. So a medium shot helps you start to isolate the subject and still give a little bit of information of the context, right? And then we have the close-up. The close-up is very powerful, right? You want to use these sparingly. You want to use these sparingly because it can work against you, right? If you use too many close-ups, then when you do a close-up, because it's something that's important that you want to highlight, the audience will already get used to it and won't be as impactful. Yeah, those are the three basic shot types. So again, we have the wide, which sets the scene. We have the medium, which kind of isolates your subject, starts to isolate your subject, but still has some context of the scene. And then we have the close-up, which is the most powerful shot, which basically tells your audience, hey, I want you to focus all your attention on this. Okay, so now we're gonna move into the 6 cool shot types, or the 6 cool shot ideas. And these are kind of like shot ideas that I got from like back in the day when I used to want to draw like Marvel comics. And there's a book called How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, which I got when I was a kid. And it had a lot of cool perspective you could draw like when you're trying to make a comic book, right? And so I figured those perspectives would work for vlogging. So let's go over those real quick. And some of these I changed the name, but they'll work. So number 1 is the 1-point perspective. So 1-point perspective, basically you have the horizon in the center of the frame, and everything, I mean, when you draw it, it's easy because you draw everything by hand, but this is nice for like at a basketball court, or like with a long street or like a long path. You put your camera like elevated on the tripod with right in the middle of the thing where all the lines seem to be going towards it like this, right? And that's like single point perspective. And you can get a shot like that. You can like either like you can walk to your camera, you can walk away from your camera, but usually it's you going away into the single point perspective, so going out to the horizon. That's a cool shot to do. The next shot is what we call like the bird's eye view, and it's basically just an elevated shot, right? Some people do these on drones, but you don't have to have a drone to get a higher perspective. You can put your camera up on a bookshelf. Basically, what it's saying is that you're seeing from the perspective of a bird. You're kind of like the God view of like what you're doing, right? And then there's the worm's perspective, the worm's eye perspective, and that's of course a low angle with the camera on the ground. That puts the audience kind of low, so it makes the subject of the frame like bigger than life, right? Larger than life, like a superhero or like or like overpowering the audience. And the bird's eye view is the opposite of that. It kind of gives you like, it makes the subject kind of lower, and it makes the audience higher. So the subject is either looking up or just getting looked at by the audience, right? All right, so then we have it's called a right. I don't even know if this is the right name for it, but I just know what it is. It's a right to left or left to right shot, and it's basically, it's kind of more like B-roll. You set up a shot, and it's a pretty much a squared shot on something. So like, for example, it could be the front of a shop, or the street, or just something where it's like framed up, and you or the subject walks across the scene, right? And that's it. You don't look at the camera, you don't do anything like that. You just walk across the scene, right? And in editing, you don't even need to leave the whole walking across the scene. You could just say the beginning of it, or just like start them here and then like cut them out there. But that basically that will give the audience a different angle of you walking, as opposed to always holding the camera here and like walking with it bouncing up and down, right? It's kind of a cool shot. You'll see I used it in the Things to Do in San Diego for Jimmy's Famous American Tavern. And then we have a third-person view. It's kind of like if you think of the game like, is it Grand Theft Auto, right? That's kind of like, or like Tomb Raider. That's a third-person view right there. That's when like the camera is kind of like, it's like somebody standing behind you, and so you can see the back of you and whatever you're seeing, as opposed to the first-person view where you're seeing what I'm seeing from my eyes, like if I'm holding the camera here, right? That's the first-person view, and the third-person view is someone behind you, so you're in the shot, the back of you is in the shot, and they can see what you're seeing. It's a fun way to show how you relate to the scene. And of course, the last thing is that I usually do is a time lapse. So time lapse is a great way to like show the transition of time or travel, and it kind of keeps it interesting. It's kind of fun to see those time lapses with the sunsets, or like the sunrise, or like the crowds of people kind of moving through a busy area. Those are always fun too. So yeah, those are time lapses. Now we're gonna move on to the last thing, and the last thing is, what is a shot? So a shot, or how to shoot in sentences, right? The reason I say how to shoot in sentences is because when you're trying to learn about writing, the real basic part of writing is a subject and an action, right? So you want to shoot that way too. So that's going to save you time in editing, and it's going to make your videos more interesting. This is what you shouldn't do when you're recording your vlogs: is get the camera, hit record, and just record everything. That's gonna slow you down. You're gonna have tons of footage to go through. It's gonna use up way more storage than you need to, and it's gonna frustrate you. And then you're not gonna want to vlog anymore because you don't want to go through all the editing, right? So what you do is you shoot in sentences, and you shoot in sentences by shooting only one subject performing an action per shot, and that's it. You start, record the subject doing the action, and stop. And that's one little clip that later on in editing you can go in there and you can cut out the beginning of it that's not important, and you can cut off the end of it that's not important, and just keep that sentence, right? Subject, action, right? So I'll give you an example. Say I'm gonna go to the store. We'll make it easy. Say I'm gonna go to the store. All right, so the tendency would be to hit record on my camera and hold it up so you can see me walking out of my house, open the door, go outside, close the door, lock it, walk to my car, unlock my car, open the door, get in, close the door, turn on my car, right? It's all these different actions happening in one continuous shot, and then you go back later and you cut things out. That's kind of that's one way to do it, but it's going to take you a lot of time. So here's what I would do. You shoot again in subject, action, okay? So first shot would be, I set the camera up next to my door, and I go with Roman opens the door. Okay, so hit record on my camera, I run up to the door, I open the door, and I walk out. So that's two actions, right? Open the door and I walk out. And then that's it, I come back to the camera, I turn it off. And that's one shot. And then I reposition my camera to outside the door, and I do it again. Hit record, I go inside the house, close the door, then I open the door so I get the shot of me opening the door. I walk outside, I close it, and I lock the door, and then I turn off my camera. So then I go back and cut that out later so that it's only me exiting the door and locking the door. So So then I reposition the camera inside my car, or I reposition the camera next to my car, so you can see the car and you can see me walk into the scene with my car in it, and I unlock the door with my alarm, so beep beep, and it unlocks the door. That's one shot. I stop the camera. Then I put the camera in the passenger seat of my car, hit record, go to the driver's side of my door, open the door, get in, start my car, and then turn off the camera. Or stop recording. So then those are all shots, right? I'm thinking about all my stuff in shots, and a shot equals a subject and an action. It doesn't necessarily mean that the action has to be jumping or turning on a car or running. It could be subject sits there, right? But then you don't linger, right? You just shoot the subject while they're sitting there, and it doesn't have to be a 10-minute clip or a 5-minute clip of them just sitting there, right? You just need enough information to tell the audience, oh yeah, Roman is sitting in the chair. That's it. Or it's a quick clip, right? So shots, and unless something really amazing is happening that you have to shoot continuously, which is rare, you would want to shoot in 5 to 10 second shots. So anything more than that, it's gotta be very special. Like something's happening, it's gotta be continuous. Otherwise, you're wasting space on your cards, and you're wasting hard drive space if you go save all that stuff. You only want to shoot subjects and actions. So keep those shots short, and even then, once you go back to edit that stuff, you want to cut off everything that's leading up to the actual subject performing the action. You only want to include the stuff. You only want to include the actual action, and then you want to cut off the end of that. That way, you end up with you have a clip where you're leading up to something, and you're gonna go open the door, and then now you grab the doorknob. Right before you grab the doorknob, you cut it so that you can discard the beginning, and the beginning of your shot is not going to be you grabbing the doorknob, opening the door, and then you cut right there, and the rest of it gets deleted. And then you go on to the next shot, which is going to be the front of the door, and you're going to cut off. You're going to play that little clip, and you're going to go all the way until the door starts to open, or a little bit past that, and you're going to cut that right there, and that goes away, and then your new beginning to that clip is going to be the door starting to open or already halfway open. You come out, and then you turn around, you close the door, you lock it, and as soon as you lock it, you cut to the next scene. So that's going to keep your videos more interesting, because remember the rule. So 5 to 10 second clips will keep your video more interesting, and I'd even say 5-second clips if you get that short. That's going to keep the scene changing every time it changes. Your audience is going to be kind of, oh, what's different? Oh, what's different? Once you learn all the different shots that are available to us, or the basics of them anyway, we'll take all the pieces, everything you've learned already, and in episode 3 of the series, we're going to go into how you can take those tools and use them to shape a story, right? That's kind of the whole point of this, is you want to be able, the whole point of making a video is to convey a message, and there's no point in learning everything, all of the stuff about cameras and microphones and lighting and shots and stories and sequences and composition if you don't have anything to say, right? You have to have something to say. That's what's going to guide what you shoot. So that'll be in episode 3 of How to Vlog, Vlogging Tips. So stay tuned next week. Alright, that's it guys. If you learned something from my videos, please give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, and I can continue to make these videos. And check out the lighting, cameras, and sound how to vlog video if you haven't checked that out already. And stay tuned for the next installment of How to Vlog, Vlogging Tips. So the next vlog is going to be focused more on story, and how you can take everything you've learned so far and use all these different pieces and tools and put them into an actual story. Alright, so that's the whole point of all this, is that you learn all the building blocks, and then all that helps you shape a story.